going to join the Olympic pickleball team.
That would be cool.
Is that why we do pony rides? It's because Jesus rode the colt.
That could be a fun service, though. Throwing tables.
Just throwing tables around, busting out the whips. Like, let's go.
So Jesus had a bad Monday?
It was just that day. He just wanted some figs. I just had this mental image of Pharisees, like cheerleaders at a game doing their chants. Like,
Give us a me.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Northside Now. This is the podcast where we take you on a tour through all of the ministries and the latest happenings around Northside Church to keep you better connected with your church family. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick, and with me as always are my co-hosts, Glenn Miller and Kevin Bryant.
Good day.
Hello.
Howdy.
Had to stop and think. I can't say morning or afternoon or evening.
Yeah, we got to keep it ambiguous because who knows when everybody's listening.
Mm-hmm. Breaking news at Northside. Breaking news at Northside. By the time you're hearing this,
There's something new.
there's something new.
There is.
Really new.
I'm very proud of it.
It's really exciting. So, if you're listening to this, get in your car if you're not already and drive down Highland Avenue until you get to 2571. Look to your right or look to your left and tell us what you see.
That's right.
They can't call us the Bag Church anymore.
We'll be the Bag Church anymore. The bag is gone.
The bag is gone.
The bag is gone officially, and so
To lands unknown.
that is exciting. I wonder, can we get it and hang it in the gym, kind of like a banner?
Yeah, like retire a jersey, we retire the bag.
That is funny. That would be a really good idea. Hang it in the gym from the rafters. You know, the bag is gone.
Memories of 2 years going by.
That was a long 2 years.
Yeah,
dude.
no kidding.
Just drug and drug and drug.
Or better yet, can we take it like into the back parking lot and like shoot it with a BB gun or something? Paintball gun, just like, I don't know.
Put it to rest.
Put it to rest.
Yeah, I wonder, we could maybe hit it with golf balls from the driving range next
There we
door.
go. Target practice.
Goodness, if I had an upgrade on Highland, we'd change the driving range at the golf course to a Top Golf.
Oh, hey, there you
That'd
go.
be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I wish that's what they would do with the old Highland Green, where they've got the city.
Yeah.
Put a Top Golf there.
Have you heard anything about that? What it's going to be? I know it's still for
I know
sale,
they've got
but-
like pickleball and tennis courts and all that stuff, but
Yeah, in the back.
my understanding is they have bought at least a large chunk of it because they're using the cart path as a walking track.
Okay,
now.
cool.
A walking thing. So maybe the city went ahead and took almost all of that. I don't know. I know a lot of people live pretty close to it and they go walk out there all the time. So
Yeah,
pretty
it's
cool.
good for that.
I haven't been out there since it was a driving range, so
I haven't either. I want to go see those new tennis courts, though. They're supposed to be really, really cool.
yeah.
And really nice.
I have actually seen those. Pretty nice out there.
And pickleball. Have y'all ever done pickleball?
I don't even know what pickleball is.
I've seen it played, but I've never played it, no.
I guess it's a cross between ping pong
Uh-huh.
and tennis.
That's
I guess.
exactly what I was going to say.
It's like is it like a half and half, like a
Yeah, it's a smaller
court kind of a thing?
Everybody's real close together. It's
Yeah.
a real fast-paced
Okay.
game.
Yeah, but it's
Essentially.
But it's a game that I guess really they tout that anybody can play.
Yeah.
Older people are kind of the ones that started it out of Florida, and now kids are playing it all the time and stuff. So
It's becoming more popular for sure. There's, I think we mentioned this sometime this year. I think there's an international federation or something now.
yeah.
So you'll probably see it in the Olympics at some
Going
point.
to join the Olympic pickleball team.
That would be cool.
Why pickleball? Why that name?
I don't know. We'll have to do some research.
yeah.
If you know why it's called pickleball, let us know.
Yeah, please let us know.
And if you'll check out our socials at Northside Now Podcast on the Instagram, I have a copy or a picture, not a copy, a copy of a picture of the Easter quote unquote nativity that I was talking about in our last episode. So I got a picture of it up there. So you can see what I'm talking about. And if you have one, post a picture or send it to us or something, because it would be cool to see what your Easter nativity, quote unquote, because we know it's not a nativity, but your Easter set.
Your Easter diorama looks like.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool. So check that out if you get a chance. We thought today would be good because you're listening to this or it's coming out and it's Holy Week. And we recently just had Palm Sunday. And so we thought we would just walk through each day of Holy Week, share a few thoughts about it and just kind of what each day is typically celebrated as. And in our looking up at some of the stuff, we found out that each day is based on different religions and different
things that,
parts of the world.
Well, yeah, Holy Week has been celebrated very differently across or around the globe over the centuries. And so it's kind of interesting to see how some people do it differently than us.
Yeah. And so we'll just kind of talk about each day a little bit, just so you maybe you were wondering, what happened on Monday? And we have a Bible in front of us and computers and lots of stuff here. So in the podcast stream today, so we won't get every single thing, and we might get something a little bit off from what you traditionally grew up with. But if you have something that you traditionally knew a certain day as celebrated in your church, we'll share some of those in a minute. But if you have something that maybe we didn't hit, let us know. We want to hear from you, so give us a holler or a shout out. But it all starts with Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday.
And in the Gospel of Luke, in the 19th chapter, verse 28, says, after Jesus had said this, he went on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. As he approached Bethphage and Bethany at the hill called the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples, saying to them, go to the village ahead of you, and as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, why are you untying it? Tell him, the Lord needs it. Now, I'm just going to stop there for a moment because...
Is that why we do pony rides? It's because Jesus rode the colt.
But how cool will it be, especially as a young person or something? Why are you doing that right there?
What are you doing?
The Lord needs it. What a great excuse.
Yeah.
Who's going to argue with that? The Lord needs it. So if next time you're, don't lie, but try to see if there's a part of your life you can use that excuse. Verse 32, those who were sent ahead went and found it just as he had told them. As they were untying the colt, its owners asked them, why are you untying the colt? And they replied, the Lord needs it. Way to go, disciples. Y'all are awesome. They brought it back to Jesus, threw their cloaks on the colt, and put Jesus on it. As he went along, people spread their cloaks on the road. And when he came near the place where the road goes down to the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of disciples began joyfully to praise God in loud voices for all the miracles they had seen. Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest. Some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to Jesus, Teacher, rebuke your disciples. I tell you, he replied, if they keep quiet, the stones will cry out. And as he approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it and said, if you, even you, had only known on this day what would bring you peace, but now it is hidden from your eyes. And he goes on, so this is the triumphal entry.
Yeah.
Palm Sunday. They're laying cloaks down and waving palm branches.
Now, where did he say they were? Where were they coming from again?
From Bethany?
Yeah.
And coming from Bethany. And I believe I read something where he stayed the nights while he was in Jerusalem this last week in Bethany.
Mm-hmm.
That's where outside the city there.
Yeah, just, I guess, kind of a suburb or a small village, really, I guess, back then. But
is that where Lazarus was? Because I read somewhere that this is mostly in like Eastern Christianity. They celebrate... They don't observe or they don't take Sundays off during Lent. And so their Lent ends like the Friday before Palm Sunday. And so they on that Saturday after Lent and before Palm Sunday, they observe Lazarus Saturday, which is supposedly the day that Jesus brought Lazarus back from the dead.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I never heard that before.
That was new.
I don't know if that's actually when he did that.
I was thinking that was a little bit earlier in his ministry, but
Maybe.
It wasn't like at the beginning or anything, but it was getting towards the end. So I think he was in and out of Bethany a couple of different times.
Gotcha.
So that might have been, I just don't know.
I don't know.
Off the top of
I have
my
to look
head
it up.
If that is where Lazarus and Mary and Martha lived. I'm not sure.
Well, one of the cool things I found about Palm Sunday is the earliest known record of any Holy Week observance. Like the first time that it is recorded that anyone did a special celebration on or for Holy Week. Mm-hmm. It was a nun back in the 4th century. Her name was Agaria or Atheria, depending on the different source. But she basically wrote a travel diary during a 3-year pilgrimage through the Holy Land and sent letters back to her convent. And I want to read an excerpt from it. But this is the earliest known record of any Holy Week observance. It says,
cool.
As the 11th hour approaches, the passage from the gospel is read, where the children, carrying branches and palms, met the Lord, saying, "Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord." And the bishop immediately rises, and all the people with him, and they all go on foot from the top of the Mount of Olives, all the people going before him with hymns and antiphons, answering one to another, "Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord." And all the children in the neighborhood, even those who are too young to walk, are carried by their parents on their shoulders, all of them bearing branches, some of palms and some of olives, and thus the bishop is escorted in the same manner as the Lord was of old. But I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
That was the first record of that. But it was kind of lost for a long time. And then in the 1880s, somebody found these letters in this diary, and it kind of came out about this observance, this being the first record. But I don't think it was really until the mid-20th century that we started waving palms in churches again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of a little interesting bit of history.
Yes, very much so. Now, that's on Sunday in the beginning of the week. So now there is a little bit of when did this actually happen, what day, or did this happen in a day? And now we just recognize on Monday and Tuesday these things. And so the next thing is typically on Monday, we recognize the clearing out of the temple.
And now I have a great idea. We don't really do anything at the church to observe Holy Monday or whatever, or the Monday of Holy Week. I think we need to start clearing the temple and just having a big cleaning day at the church, and everybody comes and helps clean the church. Just think about it. Just think about it. Get back to me. We got a year. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that would be cool.
You know, in observance of Jesus cleaning out the temple, we clean out our church, you know.
And in my Bible, in Luke, in the chapter here, verse 45, the title there says that he clears out the temple again.
Oh.
So this is the second time he has come to the temple and done some housekeeping. And it says, then he entered the temple area and began driving out those who were selling. It is written, he said to them, my house will be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers. And we've mostly all heard that story, at different times growing up. And, we see where Jesus does get angry. And that makes me feel good because as we're recording this, it's Masters Week. So golf. And there's nothing on the planet that makes me angrier than my golf game. So I get it. So that's typically on Monday. And like Patrick said, that's not something that we don't have a special service for that. Could you imagine that? That could be a fun service, though. Throwing tables around, busting out the whips. Like, let's go. Typically, it's celebrated on Monday, where Jesus clears out the temple, and reading there a while ago from Luke. Now, Tuesday is another one of these days that's kind of the same thing. And what we have too is that Tuesday typically or often is Jesus goes to the Mount of Olives. And in some places too, it says that the leaders, the Pharisees, Sadducees, and these folks are questioning him during this time, and he is teaching them with parables and things. So there seems to be some teaching, some interaction with some of the leaders of the area during this time. I'm sure this is just getting them fired up even more. They are feeling more and more threatened. Now, Kevin is over here on his Google Earth, and these aren't far apart places, are they?
Not at all. I mean, I think that it wouldn't even be a long walk. I'm trying to find the distance here, but I mean, it's from the Bethphage area, or where it sounds like, because they were maybe staying with Mary, Martha, and Lazarus in this area. You can definitely see the temple from there. The city of David's in the south. So this is over, if I have my directions correct, I think this is over in the east, just right outside the temple area. And so it's an easy walk from place to place to place. And it would have been within kind of the day's events that you might do that anyway. And I remember the story of, I think this was maybe Monday, where Jesus cursed the fig tree. Remember that? Which is an odd little story.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up because I always find that interesting. Like, why did he curse the fig tree instead of just, heal the fig tree?
Yeah. Yeah. And, Monday, I guess, is that why Mondays are always just a bad part of it? It was bad for Jesus.
So Jesus had a bad Monday?
It was just that day. He just wanted some figs.
Yeah, so on the surface, it seems, wow, that seems really petty. Of course, there really wasn't anything Jesus did that wasn't layered with meaning.
Yeah, this is from Mark 11. It says, the next day, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. Seeing in the distance a fig tree and leaf, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves, because it was not the season for figs. Then he said to the tree, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard him say it. That's the whole bit.
So was that like him saying, "Oh, forget you"?
Yeah, basically. It's like he walked up and tried to get some figs and cursed the fig tree instead.
Well, Tuesday wasn't much better, because in Matthew 23:24 through 33, he says, "Blind guides, you are the whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside but filled on the inside with dead people's bones and all sorts of impurity. Outwardly, you look like righteous people, but inwardly, your hearts are filled with hypocrisy and lawlessness. Snakes, sons of vipers, how will you escape the judgment of hell?"
Yeah, and he was talking to the temple leaders, right?
Yeah,
Again.
yeah, he's talking to the leaders here. And so, it's just like, all right, you're just making great friends coming into town. Yeah, they're not happy.
And, I've always wondered how, of course, that's kind of a scary question. What it'd be like to be in the mind of Christ, but obviously knew what was going to happen, or knew the possibilities. Maybe, he's fully human, but also divine. So how much did he know? Like, could he predict the future and could see this is what was going to happen? And in order to fulfill the plan, he had to do this thing and that thing, or did it just kind of evolve as the day went? I'm just, me being sort of a concrete thinker, I get curious about that kind of stuff. Ultimately, it's not that important. That's not the point. But I think about those things sometimes. Like, okay, so if it wasn't the season of figs, Patrick, why would he want to see a fig?
Well, I mean, later on, he has a little bit of a teaching moment about it.
Well, sure. And that's what I'm saying is he knew it wasn't time for figs.
Yeah, or was it kind of a last meal thing?
Well, it says in the morning, so I'm guessing this probably was on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But it says in the morning, as they went along, they saw the fig tree withered from the roots. Peter remembered and said to Jesus, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree you cursed has withered."
Yes.
And then Jesus says, "Have faith in God." Jesus answered, "Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Go throw yourself into the sea,' and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And when you stand praying, if you hold anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Father in heaven may forgive you your sins." So he kind of turns it into a teaching moment.
Or he knew Peter would need something.
Yeah.
So the day before, he set up, it's like setting up the gag, setting up the trap or whatever it is.
Trap.
He cursed the fig tree so that Peter would do this, so he could teach Peter, so that Peter could become this. And it blows my mind the way all of the things in the Bible work together to tell that story. The more I read it, the more I understand that, the more I see that. But it's really fascinating. This week is just like a condensed Reader's Digest, condensed version into jam-packed every single second and moment.
And even in Luke, during this Monday, Tuesday time, and maybe even over to Wednesday some, the titles of the beginning of chapter 20 is Jesus tells the parable of the wicked tenants. Religious leaders question Jesus about paying taxes, and he tells parables there. Religious leaders question Jesus about the resurrection. He tells parables there. And then a poor gives all that she has to Jesus. And again, he's questioned by the religious leaders. He's doing a lot of teaching during this time too.
And that's one thing that I had a question on too, is we've had the big event of Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming there's large crowds following, or is he just with his inner circle teaching and sharing? I would imagine, that there's crowds, but
I would think there's crowds because a lot of these are interactions in or around the temple.
Mm-hmm. They're waiting for him to strike down their Roman oppressors.
And they would always go with their buddies. I don't seem to find anywhere where you'd find these religious leaders just walking around on their own. It seemed like they traveled in packs, And so you had some of that stuff. Also on Tuesday, in case you were ever wondering when this happens, according to some of the stuff we've got.
Is this where Judas is setting up the...
Yes. Judas... Scripture indicates that this Tuesday was also the day Judas Iscariot negotiated with the Sanhedrin, the rabbinical court of ancient Israel, to betray Jesus. That's Matthew 26:14 through 16.
The rabbit court.
So, the rabbit court. And that's where the rabbit Easter bunny comes from. No, I'm just kidding.
That's where we get it.
That is not true. That is not true.
Well, and especially as he's talking about prophecy and talking about the destruction of Jerusalem and the end of the age, that's probably catching the ear of the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the Olivet discourse, and that's in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all of those. So Tuesday was a pretty big day.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of teaching going on, a lot of conversations. Judas begins to make his play.
And some people say that the whole Mount of Olives thing happened on Tuesday. We tend to recognize that on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the Garden of Gethsemane. So I guess that's a segue into Wednesday.
Wednesday. A lot of places call Wednesday Holy Wednesday. We around here call it Gethsemane Wednesday. Gethsemane was a garden in which Jesus went and prayed, and had quite a prayer time there, and that's what we typically celebrate and think about on Wednesdays.
I think we should take some time off on Wednesdays to just, rest like the disciples.
Day-long siesta.
Day-long siesta, get our Z's in.
Yeah. The scripture doesn't say exactly what happened on particular Wednesday, but that's typically what we talk about is it's holy. One of the things I looked up said that people think of that as a day of rest. Mm-hmm. Maybe he hung out around the house and they were getting things ready for Passover. And I think when you describe Passover to the youth, the best way for me to describe it, just think of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the 4th of July all mixed into one holiday.
Yeah.
It's a big thing.
People come to town for it.
People come to town, families get together, friends get together.
Yep.
There's all kinds of celebrations, and there's the whole Passover meal is there's steps to it. And
it's an event
to be done. Yeah. And the meal itself's an event,
Yeah.
And so if you've never been through a Passover meal, highly encourage you to do one.
It is pretty cool. Not like fun.
No, it's not necessarily fun. But it's not necessarily the most tasty thing.
Exactly.
But it's designed to be that way.
It's meaningful, and it was one of the cornerstones of the Jewish tradition.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because, of course, for folks that may not be as familiar, it harkens back to the entire Exodus story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, huge part of Jewish tradition,
mm-hmm.
how they view Moses and the events of leaving Egypt, and just the way exile factors into the Jewish tradition.
Yeah.
From being in Egypt to begin with, but then being forced out, Babylon, and this idea I've been studying a little bit the last few months about this idea of exile. Even in some ways, today, Hebrew tradition is to feel like we're outsiders.
Yeah.
We're stuck in exile. We are, the chosen nation that has not made it yet.
Yeah.
And so there's that sense of this tradition of being in exile, being an outsider, and the Passover is a celebration how they got past that. So definitely a big holiday.
Yes.
In terms of that tradition. And so I think about Jesus was hanging out with some of his closest friends. So Mary, Martha, and the freshly alive Lazarus. Version 2.0.
Yeah. Lazarus 2.0. We have the technology.
That sounds like a bad 80s movie. There was a Jesus 80s movie, I think The Judas Project or something.
Oh, yeah?
80s or 90s.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it was kind of a B-roll thing. It was pretty bad. Lazarus 2.0.
But Mary had done her perfume thing.
Yeah.
So, it could have totally been just let's chill at
chill around the house kind
That's
of
right.
day.
That's right.
Get ready to and you have those, and that's good. Then we get into, things really ramp up on Thursday.
Yep.
It's Monday, Thursday, the Lord's Supper, Passover Thursday, the Passover day. Typically Monday, Thursday is what it's known as. And this is where we really do see things ramp up, and starting with the Last Supper.
Well, do y'all know where the term Maundy comes from?
I was
just
hoping
going to
you would
ask
tell
you,
us.
Patrick. Yes.
It comes from the Latin word mandatum, which means command. And it references Jesus' words to the disciples when he said, "A new commandment I give to you," at the Last Supper.
Okay.
When he says, he gives them the new commandment. He says that you love one another just as I've loved you. You are also to love one another. So that's where the term Maundy Thursday comes from.
And you find this in Scripture in Luke chapter 22, Matthew chapter 26, 20 through 30, Mark 14, 17 through 26, and John 13, 21 through 30. So it's in all of the Gospels.
I generally
Maundy
think of
Thursday.
it, of just of like washing feet.
Yeah, the foot washing ceremonies and reenactments of the dinner, things like that are very standard practices. And I wonder about this too. And I guess really till I read this right here, I just now had this thought, Jesus is known kind of as a party guy, right?
Turning that water into wine.
But
the party started.
Festivals and things. I mean, he always had a big time there. And then Luke 22:15-16 says this, I have been very eager to eat this Passover meal with you. And that sounds good. That sounds like Jesus, right?
Yeah.
But he goes, to eat this Passover meal with you before my suffering begins. For I tell you now, I won't eat this meal again until its meaning is fulfilled in the kingdom of God.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that's huge because, this meal is a yearly traditional thing. And I wonder if they begin to go, is this the week? What's happening?
That's a real downer.
Yeah, it's a real downer. And that's
way to do that before the meal.
I know. Can't you let us get through?
Can't you let us enjoy the meal first? And
abnormal for him, right?
Yeah.
And then he starts pulling out buckets and washing your feet. And Peter wants a bath in the corner, and it just gets weird.
In today's world, we'd have him committed.
It is, but you're right. It's so normal for him in that unnormal upside down way.
Yeah.
Like just when you think you've got this thing figured out as the disciples, he goes and does this other thing.
Yeah.
And everything, I can't imagine, because we've talked about The Chosen a lot.
Yeah.
Feeling like we just never quite know what's going to happen, like shifting sand all the time. What's going to happen? What's Jesus going to do?
Yeah.
Why can't you just take it easy for a little bit? I mean,
can you imagine how frustrating that must have been?
That's what I wonder.
Totally.
Yeah. Especially for some of the disciples that were a little more impatient than others.
Yeah.
Trying to put myself in that scene is where I find a lot of rich understanding for maybe what it would have been like.
Yeah.
Frustrating enough to get 30 pieces of silver.
Well, for some
if he wasn't doing what you wanted him to do.
Exactly. I'm gonna prod him along, make him do what I want.
And also that sort of feeds into the Hebrew sense of impatience of, why all of these millennia, now is the time. Let's do it. And that's where the more zealous wing of the faith was at this moment.
And then he pulls out this thing of, one of you is going to betray me.
Yeah.
Tonight.
The big bomb right there.
And, in our book that we read for small groups, we didn't read for small groups, the characters of Easter, it speaks about with Judas Iscariot, Peter, James, John, they would all be pretty close to Jesus because they were all kind of in that upper echelon. And when they were eating the Passover meal, they're not at tables like we are. They're reclining inward towards one another. So the meal's there and they're kind of laying on a shoulder towards the meal.
Yeah.
So they're close to one another. Their faces are close together. Their bodies are laying, real close together. So this is an intimate meal. It's an intimate setting. This is how everybody there ate. This is not just the Jesus thing to do. This is what everybody did. And so one of you are going to betray me. That's not like shouting across the room kind of thing. Like, hey, one of y'all are going to, it's not like he's in an auditorium or anything.
Yeah.
That has to hit pretty hard too.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Judas must have started sweating.
Oh,
Well, you wonder, was the reaction that everything all of a sudden went quiet and you can hear a pin drop? Or were there other conversations going on? Like, wait, what?
And then Jesus kind of cocks his head over to Judas and goes, what you must do quickly. The one that dips his hand into his nasty
into
herb,
the bowl, yeah.
into the thing, into the salt.
Bitter
That's so
herbs.
gross, y'all. And so when he does that, and they just all have to be like, oh,
yeah.
And then Peter, surely not I. And he tells Peter, tonight before the sun goes up, before the crow of the rooster, you're going to deny even knowing me. You're not going to be my BFF anymore. That has to have their heads all twirling.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, this scene is what we replay for some traditions every service.
Yeah.
Once a month, however many times a congregation will take communion, it harkens back to this moment.
And it's our new commandment, right? It's for everybody from this point on.
Yeah. Yeah. The new covenant.
A new covenant, which I have made with you through my blood.
So there was that drama.
Yeah.
Then they need to go chill out for a bit.
And then they need to go chill out for a bit. Let's go for a walk, y'all. You've done that, right? After Thanksgiving dinner.
After
They
I
need to walk
drop
up
after I drop the bombshells that I'm going to get killed, and then I'm
walking off the calories,
Let's
it's
go
just
for a stroll tonight.
There's a nice moon out. Let's go.
And then I'm going to pray. I need to pray over here. And that was normal for Jesus to do that. So he's been doing all this abnormal stuff, and now he's going to go pray. That's normal for them. They're full, all that tryptophan from all that turkey in there and stuff. So Jesus says, I'm going to go a little bit further, and I'm going to pray. And they're like, they're out, The Cowboys lost, the Lions lost, and
sleeping off that.
Might as well go to sleep,
Sleeping off that pecan pie.
Well, and I wondered if it was from all the commotion the last few days and just the general sense of that, or was it really late?
Yeah,
I think it was later because it talks about how they have to come with torches and stuff, and you got to remember, all that mental stress too is tiring.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's been a busy week.
It's been a busy week already. They've seen a lot, and this has been going on for a good while. I think they've known it's getting a little hotter and a little hotter.
They can feel it. They can sense it. Yeah. And that the Passover celebration holiday, however you want to call it, is not like get up and dance and it's kind of what I think of Christmas in some ways.
Yeah.
It's really a somber opportunity for Christians. We have the benefit of history, so not only remember the birth, but think of what is going to happen and the way that's juxtaposed together. But secularly, it's a big party.
Yeah.
Families coming together, everybody's coming to town, you've got your festivities, events, etc. But the service or the tradition itself, at least when I've been involved in it, don't have Jewish heritage, but it's a very somber kind of
definitely so.
Contemplative type thing. So it's emotionally maybe draining.
Yeah.
And then at that moment to have had all this, the bombs dropped and various different things, it probably would have been completely emotionally exhausting in many ways, I think.
So they fall asleep and Jesus comes and wakes them and says, could you not even stay awake with me for a little bit? And
we'll stay awake. No problem. We got it.
And boom again. But I wonder if that's not, kind of a gift from God, because what's about to happen is he comes back and I can't believe y'all fell asleep, blah, blah, blah. And about that time is when Judas and the temple guards and some of the Pharisees are the leaders of that time. The Jewish leaders show up.
Yeah. So Judas had left the party.
Yep. We forgot about it. He took off during all that.
Yep. And was getting the things together.
And now this is where we begin the process of blurring Maundy, Thursday with Good Friday, because all the rest of what we're about to say happened overnight into Good Friday.
Well, I want to, before we leave the garden, this is where it said when he was praying, his sweat fell like drops of blood.
Yeah.
So did he just have like blood running down his face? So when he goes back to the disciples and he says, stay awake with me, does he just have blood all over him? Wouldn't that be kind of a terrifying sight a little bit?
Yeah, that would be a little bit weird. And I've heard multiple different theological things where it says his sweat was like drops of blood. So big, thick, blop, time things. Yeah. And then I have heard he's sweating so hard that blood is coming out.
Which I read an article a long time ago. I'd have to go back and find it to see, but it was from some medical professionals that was saying they had seen this in athletes that worked out so hard that were under such stress that they literally blood came out.
Yeah, that's part of Thursday. That's praying.
Yeah, that's an image right there.
Yeah. Has that ever happened to you? Let us know.
Maybe if it is metaphorical, sweat like drops of blood. If you're bleeding, it's draining.
Yes.
It's draining life. It's draining energy from you. And if that is such a conversation in prayer, maybe like Jacob wrestling all night long, et cetera, and sweating so hard, potentially, then that would be draining. It'd be like draining your life force out. That's sort of where I've at least thought a lot about in terms of like drops of blood, that it's like draining a life force. It was a very human thing to do, as he was fully human, praying about, hey, if there's another option, if you could, I wouldn't mind.
But that's it. And so here comes Judas, and Judas comes and has worked out a signal, and it's the Judas's kiss to kiss Jesus. And
why a kiss?
I think that is it's a friendly greeting in that part of the world for men to kiss
Totally
each
right.
other. On
But
the
didn't
cheek.
also, when he kind of set all this up, didn't he say he would mark who they were supposed to get with a kiss?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So,
But why a kiss? It could have been like a, hey, there he is, or something. And I think you're right, Glenn, that was something that was a sign to friendship, a sign of greeting, and it plays into the irony that, that was the sign.
or I'm assuming we're still at this point, Judas is still thinking that Jesus is going to, you know. Yeah, so maybe he's thinking, I'm your friend, I'm doing this for your own good, we're going to get this party started.
And that's an interesting point of view. Maybe he was trying to jumpstart the process.
There's no doubt.
Give him the open window to say, okay, here's where you can show everybody the power you have.
Here comes those 10,000 angels.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm about to unleash them. This is going to be cool. Watch what I'm about to do.
So then Peter pulls out a sword.
Yeah, Peter pulls out a sword and blows Judas's plan. Yeah. Starts chopping off ears and things, and Jesus is like, well, stop, and heals the servant. And
Well, that guy believes now.
yeah. We don't hear much about him anymore, do we?
Like, if I got my ear cut off and then somebody just picks it up and puts it back on, like, that's okay, I'm a believer. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I always wondered about, if you do something and you end up in a book and it's way beyond your life, you're in a history book or something, but that dude,
Yeah.
we don't even know his name. We know nothing.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that he lost an ear for a temporary amount of time. That had to be weird. They take Jesus into custody and they begin the process of the tour, right? From Pontius Pilate to Herod, back to Pilate, to be flogged and beaten.
So the people that arrested him, they would be Roman, right?
No,
They're under
arrestings,
the guise of the Sanhedrin because that's the law we're talking about.
they were
right?
Jewish leaders and temple guards. The Romans
Temple
allowed
guards.
them to have temple guards.
Thank you.
They arrested him and took him to Caiaphas's house, actually.
So this was a Jewish proceeding at this
was.
point. Yeah, for sure.
They gave them a little bit of leadway with these Jewish guards, with these temple guards and things like that to help them rule the people a little bit. So, for instance, I guess it's more than this, of course, right? But it's the neighborhood watch program, right? It's more than that.
Citizens arrest.
Exactly.
Right.
It's more than that, but it's a step down from official hardcore law. And that was the thing, is because there were certain things they could not do.
Yeah.
And they were needing the help. One, to help control the people. Two, they were needing the help of getting their ultimate goal, which is to kill Jesus. They didn't want Jesus flogged. They didn't want him hurt. They didn't want him sent anywhere else. They wanted him dead, period. And they couldn't do that without a little help from Rome or the Roman leaders. So yeah, they did have a little guard. So yeah, they take Jesus to Caiaphas's house, and
The whole crew's there. They gathered the council and
yeah, everybody's there.
And is this Good Friday yet, or are we still
we're
Thursday night?
We're at that
Or is
really
this
weird
kind of in the nighttime.
It's
where
late.
It's nighttime.
It's like 2 a.m. Is that
Nobody's
is
gone
that
to
Friday
bed.
or Thursday?
Yeah, nobody's gone to bed. We do know that the disciples kind of split at this stage. They kind of spread out, except for Peter, for sure, and maybe John a little bit, but for sure Peter is, and that's when he kind of is creeping around.
Do they all just like scatter? Afraid they'd be arrested too.
Yeah, like a bunch of teenagers at a party whenever
and
the cops show up.
Scatter! Everybody runs.
So,
Everybody takes
it's
a different direction.
yeah, that's exactly like that.
I think that's kind of what happened. So this is what's going on, and then they march him to Pilate, and I think now we are probably, the rooster has crowed. Jesus and Peter have kind of this exchange of eye contact.
I guess Peter's close enough that they
So he's
can
close enough.
see each other. Yeah.
And typically, by the third time a rooster is crowed, we typically are pretty close to daylight, if not for sure on daylight. And so they march him to Pilate, I guess because it's government official. It has office hours, right?
That's right. They don't open until 9.
They don't open until 9.
Had to wait till the office opens.
That's why the office opens.
Pilate has to wake up, and all his servants, and everybody has to.
Yeah, have to get
Prep
everything
him
ready.
and-
So they do that, and so Pilate questions him, and this is Friday, Good
Right.
Friday, what they call Good Friday. Some people call it Bad Friday. I've heard it called that. Then he questions him, and he's like, "I'm not finding anything wrong here. What's going on here?" And then he says, I've got an idea, because Pilate had his own issues too, right? Mm-hmm. He had bigger bosses, and He's out here in his little outpost trying to keep the peace.
He's just middle management. Like,
he is.
I was just going to say he's far from powerless, but he's definitely middle management.
Yeah.
He's getting pinched from both sides.
Sure.
And if he's been seeing this brewing, or his people have told him about it, he understands it's got to be dealt with, right?
Yes.
Because the way I look at it, his job is to make sure that his territory is under control. Otherwise, the people above him are going to say, what's going down over there? Why can't you get this together? If you can't take care of it, we're going to put somebody else in your place. So he's got that on him too. But I always find that it's interesting that the historically evil character of Pilate has this, to me, pretty remarkable. I don't see anything wrong here. But I find it interesting in this character that we see a little glimmer of something positive, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Pilate initially finds nothing wrong. So he asks the question, is this man a Galilean? And they go, yeah. And he goes, oh, guess what? Guess who's in town? Old Herod. And this happens to be Herod Antipas, who is the one who had John the Baptist killed.
Right.
And a surprisingly ruthless and bloody Herod. He's one of the worst Herods that was out there.
Is this the same Herod from when Jesus was born that had all the 2-year-olds killed, or had all the babies killed?
Is this
another
dad.
Herod? Okay.
Yeah.
So keeping up the family tradition of being a great dude.
Right. And so in Luke chapter 23, I'm going to read here on verse 6. On hearing this, Pilate asked if this man was a Galilean. When he learned that Jesus was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at the time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased, because for a long time he had been wanting to see him. From what he had heard about him, he hoped to see him perform some miracles. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and teachers of the law were standing there, vehemently accusing him. Then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him, dressing him in an elegant robe. They sent him back to Pilate. That day, Herod and Pilate became friends. Before this, they had been enemies. So that's interesting too. It's like Pilate's like, I'll send you over to my nemesis over there. And so somehow they became friends out of all this.
That's scheming.
Yeah. But it was Herod who put the robe on him and the crown of thorns and stuff, it appears. So I'm sure Herod was like wanting the golden goose, right? Give me a golden egg. What can you do? I hear you can do miracles. What I find interesting in this is when this is happening, Jesus has been talking, right? Monday and Tuesday, he was teaching and telling parables and praying, all this stuff. And all of a sudden, zoop.
Yeah.
Kind of quiets down and just lets them do their thing.
Lets it unfold.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's driving any disciples. Judas, it drove him literally insane.
Right. Yeah.
And these others are like, why are you not? And this is now where they're really not getting it. So interesting stuff here.
This is not out of character ultimately.
Yeah.
For Jesus.
Exactly.
It's just another example of the disciples not being able to see past their own, how they would handle the situation, their own humanness. And, Jesus can see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And so he is sent back to Pilate, who is not happy. He has him flogged, 40 lashes, which usually kills most people. Right. Or at least severely impairs them. And so he gets all that done, and that's pretty horrible. Pilate then is kind of at a point, he's, what do you want me to do? And that's when they start screaming, crucify him, crucify him. Okay, you have a tradition during this time of the year, during the Passover, again, it's a holiday season. You can pick somebody. So you pick this Barabbas, who's a zealot, he's a terrorist.
He's a murderer.
He's an assassin. Yeah. He's a horrible human being. And so, who do you want? You want this guy who I'm sure Pilate's going, there's no way they're picking this teacher prophet. Yeah. They're not going to let this happen to him versus this guy. And they choose Barabbas. I'm sure the most surprised person there was Barabbas.
So have you ever experienced this quick of an emotional turn in a crowd?
Oh,
because
yeah.
5 days prior, the scene was 180 degrees different.
Yeah.
Now, you obviously will have influencers in the crowd that are whipping up the sentiment for this particular thing. But have you experienced that?
No.
I haven't either.
Not personally.
Not unless, not from pure joy, pure woohoo to pure blah. Now, I've seen pure blah happen pretty quickly.
Yeah.
but I've never seen go from one to the other.
I mean, mob mentality is a real thing.
It is. I mean, we just saw that, a few years ago in this country,
Yeah.
so we understand that.
Right.
But that didn't go from super happy to super blah in just a few days.
Right. And it's interesting. You remember the shooting out in Las Vegas, the concert?
Oh, yeah.
That was different. It was an outside force. I mean, I guess it's some ways the same, an outside force totally changing the atmosphere in a split second.
Yeah.
This, you probably had opportunity for either the Sanhedrin or other folks to plant the seeds of the sentiment.
But that goes back to, like 9/11. Everybody's living their day, and all of a sudden an airplane hits.
True.
And that changes everything. This, to me, feels a little more prepared and planned. I don't know. It just feels different, I guess, a little bit than that.
I think everybody was excited at first, because they thought he was going to do something.
Yeah.
And then when he didn't do what they wanted him to do, it feels more like, when a political party makes all these promises during their campaign, and then when they get into office, they don't actually do what they said they were going to do, kind of a thing. They've put all these expectations on what they think Jesus is going to do. And he comes into town, they're all excited for what they want. And then when he doesn't do what they want, they turn on him.
He doesn't give me mine, right?
Exactly.
I think Pastor Kevin said it long ago in a sermon. It was like my cheese.
Don't move my cheese.
Yeah. So when you don't do the right thing with my cheese, then I'm not a happy mouse.
Yeah.
And there would have been all layers of the society there. So you'd have the people that were more politically either active or informed, and then you just have laborers and things that were caught in the crossfire, so to speak, caught up in the moment. And I just try to imagine being there, I think is really hard, because if I weren't even clued into, I kind of heard about this Jesus guy, but I didn't really know him. And finding myself in that area, hearing the commotion, going to check it out, what's happening. Would I join into the chants of what everybody else was doing?
Yeah, they didn't have cable TV. There wasn't much else going on.
The word on the street, they had,
I can't remember what movie it was. It's one of the older Jesus movies. And Barabbas is asking kind of this question after he's released, right? And I can't remember. I want to say it was a Roman guard or something and said, what's happening? How did this happen? Or whatever. He said, your people screamed louder or something like that. And I don't know, that always stuck with me a little bit. It's just, I kind of feel like, maybe that's how it was seen, is there was more Barabbas supporters, but it also says somewhere in Scripture, I could probably keep looking here and find it, where the leaders, the Pharisees, and them were whipping up the crowd into a frenzy. And they were getting them to, the whole, like you see an athlete do, pump up the crowd, Barabbas, we want Barabbas. And so,
I just had this mental image of Pharisees, like cheerleaders at a game, doing their chants, like getting the crowd.
Give us a B, give us an A.
Hilarious.
2 bits, 4 bits.
Oh my goodness.
That is great. That'd be a really great meme or something.
Yeah, there you go.
There,
I'll work on that
for Good Friday.
But I mean, I was reading something here though. This happened very quickly.
Yeah,
because it happens before the 3rd hour. That's like 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so this is going pretty quickly.
So it happened like wildfire.
It seems like putting him on a cross happened pretty quickly. I mean, so they. There was no, okay, you're going to, next Tuesday, we're going to hang you.
Right.
No, it's, here, grab this piece of wood. We're going up the hill right now. So they were ready.
Well, they were probably like, we're already crucifying these other 2 guys. Let's just put Jesus in with them, not have to, schedule a whole new crucifixion. Just works easier for the books.
They had an available cross.
Exactly.
And that the Pharisees and them, Caiaphas and the boys had to be getting antsy because guess what's coming? The Sabbath is tomorrow. And they know they can't do anything on the Sabbath, and they don't want to be out there managing this on the Sabbath because it would be against their law-abiding selves. So they want this done quickly.
Get it done.
So a lot of people may have heard about the Stations of the Cross and things when Jesus gets the cross, and then there's 7 different stops that are typically recognized, and so those, and he gets up to the hill eventually. And he's pretty well done at this point.
And my sense has always been in the past that this was a long journey, but it's not really that far.
Yeah, it's not super long.
But with crowded streets, the way the streets were, negotiating turns and corners, all that kind of stuff.
It probably felt like a lot longer, especially after you've been flogged and you're carrying
You've been
cross.
beat to nearly death. You've been up for over 24 hours. You had that big prayer time.
I feel like any of it would have felt like a long.
Yeah, well, and the flogging did kill most or a lot of people.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was still physically
the fact that he was
alive.
even able, I've actually, when I speak to athletes and stuff, I was talking about, you want to talk about an athletic human being, had to be Jesus, because the fact that he could keep going and carry the cross for any length of that time is an absolute miracle. I mean, seriously. So he had to be pretty good shape. Jesus had to be kind of a specimen. I don't know if he was an Arnold or anything, but to think of his human physical being had to be pretty decent.
And he did have someone to help as well.
Yeah.
There's the story.
And comes
where-
across, yeah.
To come help carry the cross.
And so we get to the cross, and he's nailed the cross on, which is where Good Friday, Bad Friday, Good Friday, because for us, this happens. He takes all of our sins there. We have many words between Jesus and the crowd. Jesus, I think actually there's 7 phrases.
Yeah, 7 statements.
Yeah, 7 statements from the cross.
Yeah.
And that's where he goes, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. That's Luke 23:34. That's the one that always gets me. I know that would be tough for any other human to do, And after it's all said and done, one of the Roman centurions there, the sergeant in charge,
Right.
is like, surely this was the man of God,
Yeah. And what I find fascinating too is that these events, the words, are fulfillments of past prophecy or references to the Hebrew scripture.
Yeah. Like when he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? He's actually quoting Psalms. Yeah.
So that kind of stuff just brings the story into kind of full circle.
There's so much jam-packed into this.
It really
is.
is.
Like we could unpack this for days.
Totally
'Cause
true.
Even like the part with the thieves on either side of him when, one of them repents and he says, today you will be with me in paradise. That says a lot about grace right there.
Yeah. And it gives us a glimpse into how heaven works and all that.
We could have a lot of
We
conversation
could have a
around that
lot
too.
of conversation.
We
That's
could
what I
keep
mean.
going.
It's like there's so much in this one story.
Yeah.
But
right
that's
here.
also a lot of the story that a lot of people really know about, right? Jesus dies. We're going to go there.
Yep.
And so Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus have found a tomb, and they get permission to get his body down before the Passover. And he is buried in that tomb on Friday evening. Now that leads us into what is Holy Saturday. Some churches call it Black Saturday.
It's where the
And
popular band Black Sabbath gets
Black
their name
Sabbath, because that's true, where they get their name. I grew up in a tradition, United Methodist Church, but I grew up in some smaller churches when I was younger, that after the Good Friday service on a Friday night, there would be a black bow tied to the church doors. And no one
Could get in.
No one was allowed in that church until Easter morning. And I always found that interesting. And and I think that's just how people view like the sanctuary and the church house versus today. There used to be, just a whole lot different view of what happened in that sanctuary. I mean, even had little old ladies, get on to me when I was a kid. This is holy ground. But that's what they felt. That was their tradition. That's how they experienced their time of worship and all that. So basically, nothing happens on Saturday.
Yeah.
Jesus is in the tomb.
It was guarded.
It was guarded. They did post guards, and they were afraid because of the crowd. The whole town's whipped into a frenzy, and so there's a lot going on politically and stuff. So it's guarded, and they begin the process of going to check the body. The women and stuff did, because they had a tradition where they would put spices and different things and to, I guess, to help with the smell. Just some of their traditions they would do with
Kind of honor him and
honor and stuff. So Saturday's pretty low key, except for the posting of the guards and things like that.
Is Saturday when Judas went out and took his own life?
Typically believed to be so, yeah. I believe it would be sometime Friday night, Saturday morning, somewhere Saturday.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that, yes. And then, here we go. It is Sunday.
Dun, da, da, da.
The stone is rolled away. There's a small earthquake, whatever. It is Easter, and he is alive. They go visit the tomb to do the body burial things, and he's gone. Except for a gardener, who turns out to be Jesus.
Can I jump back real quick? Not too far, but I think it's pretty significant that the two people that were pivotal in getting the tomb and
Secured,
preparing those things. In The Chosen, for those people that have seen it, that one of the characters is pretty heavily featured in terms of Nicodemus. But he's the one, that Jesus had talked to and talked about being born again. And how can I do that? Because I'm an old guy. And, he was one of the Sanhedrin. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's significant, along with, you talked about the Roman centurion too. Yeah. That in this story, there are unexpected characters.
Yeah, definitely.
That are thrown in there. And there's no accident in the way all this was written. And if a character is there, it's for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
So we should pay attention to the details. And they have to be filtered through historical context and all those kinds of things. But for me, that was pretty significant that Christ's example, Jesus' example, reached across the divide. And it really was a divide because the Sanhedrin were totally, like you said, had been trying to figure out a way to solve this problem, and they found their window and they took it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Early Sunday morning, several women, Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Salome, and Mary, the mother of James, went to the tomb and discovered that the large stone covering the entrance had been rolled away. An angel announced, "Don't be afraid. I know you're looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He isn't here. He has risen from the dead, just as he said would happen." And then he goes on to appear to Peter and goes on to appear to the two disciples on the road to Emmaus, to all the rest of the disciples except for Thomas, and later on to Thomas. And then I believe it's 40 days after the resurrection, he is still, until he ascends into heaven in the great cloud and go into all nations and baptize them.
This is our Great Commission.
The Great Commission, yeah.
That's something that Jesus does that I don't think gets talked about enough, is his ability to, is it like a Jedi mind trick, or is like some sort of a shapeshifter ability where he can appear different until he's ready to reveal himself, like he does at the tomb, and he does it on the road to Emmaus. And, it's like they walk the whole way and don't realize it's him until right before he disappears. And there's some interesting stuff going on there.
But he didn't do that until after he died.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's important to realize that, certain things, like he even told Mary, "Don't grab a hold of me because I've not yet ascended to my Father." Mm-hmm. So from that point till he got to Thomas, he must have ascended to heaven and come back. So I don't know if he's back and forth.
Well, because he said, stage. "Don't touch me because I haven't ascended yet." But then he tells Thomas to
touch him,
to
touch
feel
me all
the
you
wounds,
want to.
And then
all of you touch me if you want to.
It's confusing.
So he had
to know.
He had to have been going back and forth at that point. So he must have just been fresh out of the grave whenever she thought she was talking to a gardener and he called her by name, and then went on to heaven and then came right straight back. Had to have happened that way.
There's no other way.
There's no other way.
The layover.
There's no other way to describe that. So I think he has the ability to come and go as he wishes.
I mean, he's God. He can do whatever he wants.
Exactly. And so that's when we have a true fulfilling of the Trinity, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That is the Holy Week experience right there. I hope you enjoyed that. We kind of walked through it a little bit, but people always ask us a ton of questions about Holy Week and things, and now it's on the podcast, and you can come check it back out anytime you want to.
Yeah. And for a little more time-sensitive information, if you want to learn a little bit more about all this stuff or celebrate this stuff with us, we just had our Palm Sunday, but tomorrow is Wednesday, and we're going to be talking about the Garden of Gethsemane and all that in our typical Wednesday night service. And then Friday night at 7 o'clock, we're going to have our Good Friday service, and we'll talk about the crucifixion and all of that part of the story. And then Easter Sunday, we're going to have a sunrise service at 6:30 in the Vesper area behind the church, unless the weather does not permit, then we'll have it in the chapel. And then our regular services at 8 o'clock, 9:15, and 10:30. So come celebrate with us.
Yes, and then no other activities the rest of the afternoon, so go hang out with family.
Yes. Well, guys, thanks for podcasting with me. And thanks to all of you out there in the world for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Northside Now Podcast. Go to our website, northsidejackson.com, or email us at podcast@northsidejackson.com. We hope to hear from you soon. Once again, this is Patrick.
Have a blessed Easter. This is Glenn.
And I'm Kevin.
And that's what's happening at Northside Now.